In the freezing winter night, as snow fell heavily, a billionaire panicked when he discovered his mother, who suffered from Alzheimer's, slumped against the wall by the mansion gate, barefoot and dressed in only a thin nightgown. Beside her was a homeless young woman who had taken off her only jacket to keep the old woman warm. The billionaire rushed to lift his mother and brought the kind-hearted girl inside to warm up, unaware that this very act would change his life forever. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. Alexander Monroe's hands gripped the steering wheel as his Mercedes turned onto Lakeside Drive. The Seattle skyline faded behind him, replaced by the towering pines of his gated community. He'd cut his San Francisco trip short, something his assistant called unprecedented, and his business partners called concerning. But the voicemail from his mother's caregiver had been clear. Margaret had another episode, worse than usual. "Mr. Monroe, she's asking for your father again. I know he passed 3 years ago, but she won't believe me. She keeps saying he's waiting for her at the old house." Alexander rubbed his temples. Alzheimer's. The word still felt like a punch to the gut every time he thought it. The iron gates of his estate swung open automatically. He pulled into the circular driveway, his breath fogging in the cold morning air. Then he saw them. His mother, slumped against the stone pillar by the front gate, in nothing but her pale blue nightgown. And a girl. A young woman, really. Dark hair tangled with frost, wearing a torn gray hoodie, her arms wrapped around his mother, holding her upright. Jesus Christ. Alexander threw the car door open and ran. The wind cut through his coat like knives. His dress shoes slipped on the icy pavement. When he reached them, his mother's lips were tinged blue. Her bare feet were white against the snow. Mom, can you hear me?" Margaret's eyes fluttered open, confused, lost. "Alexander, is that you, sweetheart?" "Yes, Mom. Yes, it's me." "What are you doing out here?" His voice cracked. He was 42 years old, a billionaire who'd built a tech empire from nothing, and right now he felt like a terrified child. The girl holding his mother shifted. Her movements were slow, stiff. She was walking. I heard her crying. I didn't know what else to do." Alexander looked at her properly for the first time. 20, maybe younger. Hollow cheeks, chapped lips, eyes that had seen too much. "How long have you been out here?" he demanded. I don't know. A while. Alexander pulled out his phone, fingers shaking as he dialed 911. "Do you have any idea how dangerous?" He stopped himself. The girl's jacket, if you could call it that, was soaked through. She was shivering so hard her teeth clattered, but his mother was warm. Or warmer, at least. The girl had taken off her only jacket and wrapped it around Margaret's shoulders. 911, what's your emergency?" "I need 2 ambulances. 4750 Lakeside Drive. My mother has Alzheimer's. She's been outside in the cold for I don't know how long, and there's a young woman with her. Both are showing signs of hypothermia." He knelt in the snow, pulling Margaret into his arms. She weighed nothing. When had she gotten so small? "Stay with me, Mom. Please stay with me." "Your father's waiting," Margaret mumbled. "He said he'd be at the gate. He promised." Alexander's throat tightened. "Dad's not here, Mom." "But I am. I'm right here." The girl slumped against the pillar, her eyes closing. "Hey." Alexander reached out, grabbing her shoulder. "Stay awake. You hear me? Stay awake." Her eyes opened, but they were unfocused. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't." Alexander stopped. What was he supposed to say? That she'd saved his mother's life, that his state-of-the-art security system had failed, but this stranger hadn't. Sirens wailed in the distance. "What's your name?" Alexander asked, keeping his hand on her shoulder. "Ella. Ella James." "Okay, Ella. Help is coming. Just hold on." She nodded weakly. Then her hand moved to touch something at her wrist, a tarnished silver bracelet. Her lips moved, forming words Alexander couldn't hear over the approaching sirens. The ambulances arrived in a blur of red lights and urgent voices. Paramedics swarmed them, checking vitals, wrapping them in thermal blankets, loading them onto gurneys. "Sir, we need to take them both to St. Mary's," a paramedic said. "Are you family?" "She's my mother." "The girl." Alexander looked at Ella's unconscious form being lifted into the second ambulance. "I don't know who she is, but yes, I'm responsible for both of them." He followed in his car, his mind racing. How had his mother gotten outside? Where was Linda, the caregiver? Why hadn't the alarm system worked? And who was Ella James? At the hospital, Alexander paced the waiting room while doctors worked on both women. His phone buzzed constantly, texts from his assistant, missed calls from investors, a reminder about tomorrow's board meeting. He ignored all of it. Mr. Monroe. A doctor in blue scrubs approached. Your mother is stable. We've warmed her up and her vitals are improving. She was lucky. Another 30 minutes out there. And the girl. Miss James is in rougher shape. More severe hypothermia. Malnutrition. She's also severely dehydrated. When's the last time she ate? Alexander realized he had no idea. I don't know. I don't know anything about her. The doctor nodded slowly. Well, she saved your mother's life. Used her own body heat to keep her warm. Without that, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Alexander sank into a plastic chair, his head in his hands. His $30,000 security system had failed. His professional caregiver had failed. His own judgment leaving his mother to go to San Francisco had failed. But a homeless girl with nothing had succeeded. Part 2. The girl with the silver bracelet. 3 hours later, Alexander sat beside his mother's hospital bed. She was sleeping peacefully now, her color returning. Linda, the caregiver, had arrived full of apologies and explanations. The lock on Margaret's bedroom door had malfunctioned. She'd only stepped away for a moment to use the bathroom. She'd called him immediately. Alexander had told her to go home. He'd deal with all that later. Now he walked down the hallway to Ella's room. A nurse at the station looked up. Can I help you? I'm here to see Ella James, room 214. Are you family? I'm the one who called 911. She was helping my mother. The nurse's expression softened. She's awake, still weak, but the doctor says she'll make a full recovery. Tough kid. Alexander knocked softly on the door before entering. Ella was sitting up in bed, staring out the window at the gray Seattle morning. She looked small in the hospital gown, fragile, but when she turned to face him, her eyes were sharp. You're the man from this morning, she said. Alexander Monroe, and you're Ella James. Yeah. An awkward silence stretched between them. Alexander pulled up a chair. The doctors say you saved my mother's life. Ella's fingers went to her wrist. The silver bracelet was still there. I heard her crying. I couldn't leave her there. Where were you when you heard her? By the bus stop, down the street from your house. I was trying to stay warm. Alexander studied her face. No makeup, no jewelry except that bracelet. Her hair was clean now. The nurses must have helped her shower, but her clothes folded on the nearby chair were worn thin. You're homeless, he said. Not a question. Ella's jaw tightened. Does it matter? No. I'm trying to understand. You gave my mother your only jacket. She needed it more than me. You could have frozen to death. So could she. Ella's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. Look, I don't want any reward or anything. I just did what anyone would do. Alexander thought about the dozens of cars that had probably passed his mother on their way through the neighborhood, the neighbors who'd been too busy or too comfortable in their warm houses to notice. Not anyone, he said quietly. Another silence. Then Ella spoke again. Your mom kept talking about your dad. She said he promised to meet her. My father passed away 3 years ago. She has Alzheimer's. Sometimes she forgets. I figured. My mom. Ella stopped swallowing hard. My mom used to do that too. At the end, she's gone. 6 months ago. Lung cancer. Ella touched the bracelet again. This was hers. It's all I have left. Alexander leaned forward to read the inscription, Kindness never leaves you. That's beautiful. She believed it. Even when we had nothing. Even when... Ella's voice broke. She turned back to the window. Alexander wanted to ask more. Where was her family? How had she ended up on the streets? What happened after her mother died? But something in her posture told him to stop. Some wounds were too fresh to probe. The hospital says you're malnourished, he said instead. When did you last eat? I don't remember. 2 days ago, maybe? Jesus. Alexander pulled out his phone. I'm ordering you food. What do you want? You don't have to. Ella, what do you want? She blinked at him. Then so quietly he almost missed it. Pancakes. I really want pancakes. Done. He found a nearby diner on his phone and placed an order. They'll deliver it here. Get you the works pancakes, eggs, bacon, orange juice. The doctor said you need to eat slowly, so pace yourself. Why are you doing this? Alexander looked at her, really looked at her. She was just a kid, maybe 20 years old. She should be in college somewhere worrying about exams and dates and what to do with her life. Instead, she was here alone with nothing but a dead mother's bracelet and the clothes on her back. "Because you saved my mother's life," he said. "And because—" He paused, searching for the right words. "Because someone should have been there for you 6 months ago. And they weren't." Ella's eyes glistened with tears she refused to let fall. "I don't need pity." "Good, because I'm not offering it. I'm offering breakfast. Big difference." The corner of her mouth twitched, almost a smile. The food arrived 20 minutes later. Alexander watched as Ella ate slowly, carefully, savoring every bite. She closed her eyes after the first taste of pancakes, and he saw her shoulders relax for the first time since he'd met her. "These are amazing," she said. "They're just pancakes." "No, they're not." She looked at him seriously. "When you haven't eaten in 2 days, pancakes are everything." Alexander felt something twist in his chest. Guilt, shame, recognition of how much he'd taken for granted. "Where have you been staying?" "Bus stops, mostly. Sometimes the shelter downtown, but it's always full. There's a spot under the viaduct that's not too bad if you get there early." "What about family, friends?" "No family. Mom was all I had." "Friends," she shrugged. "Turns out when you can't pay rent, people stop calling." "What about social services, haven't they?" "I tried. I don't have my birth certificate. Lost it when we got evicted. Without ID, it's hard to get help. Without an address, it's hard to get ID. It's a loop. A trap." "Yeah." Ella finished another bite of pancakes. "But I'm working on it. I do day labor sometimes. Save up enough I can get a room at the Y, take a shower, look presentable for job interviews. It's slow, but I'll figure it out." Alexander marveled at her. No self-pity, no anger, just determination. "How old are you?" 20. "I turned 21 in March." "Did you graduate high school?" "Yeah. Top of my class, actually. I was going to go to the University of Michigan, had a partial scholarship and everything, but then Mom got sick and she didn't finish. She didn't need to." Alexander made a decision. "Where are you going when they discharge you?" Ella's expression shuddered. "I'll figure it out." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." "What if I said you could stay at my house just temporarily, until you get back on your feet?" Ella stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "What?" "I have a guest house. It's empty. You'd have your own space, your own bathroom. You could stay there while you sort out your paperwork, look for work, whatever you need." I can't." Ella shook her head. "Why would you do that?" "Because my mother would want me to. Because you deserve better than sleeping under a viaduct. Because—" Alexander ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I'm not going to lie and say this is purely altruistic. My mom keeps having these episodes. The care I've arranged clearly isn't working. Maybe having someone else around someone who cares would help." "You want me to take care of her?" "No, God no. I'll hire more professional help. But I saw how you were with her this morning. You were gentle, kind. That's not something you can train into someone." Ella looked down at her empty plate. "I don't want charity." "Then call it employment. You help keep an eye on my mom, and I provide room and board. Fair trade. Nothing's ever fair." "No," Alexander admitted, "but sometimes things can be decent. What do you say?" Ella was quiet for a long moment. Her fingers traced the words on her bracelet. "Kindness never leaves you." "Okay," she whispered, "but just until I get my own place, I'm not a charity case." "Understood. And Ella, thank you for what you did. My mom, she's all I have left too." Ella met his eyes, and in that moment, Alexander saw something pass between them. Recognition, understanding. Two people who'd both learned what it meant to lose someone and fight to hold on to what remained. "You're welcome," Ella said. Part 3. The Sound in the Dark. 6 hours earlier, before Alexander returned home, Ella huddled deeper into the alcove of the shuttered coffee shop, pulling her hoodie tight. The bus stop bench was taken by 2 other people, and the shelter downtown had turned her away at 5 p.m. capacity reached. It was going to be a long night. The temperature had dropped to 28 degrees. Ella could see her breath misting in the air. Her fingers were already numb despite being buried in her pockets. She tried to remember the warmth techniques her mother had taught her during their last winter together. Think about summer. Think about the sun on your face. Mind over matter, baby. But mind over matter didn't work when your body was shutting down from cold. Ella checked her phone, 3% battery left. She'd charged it at the library earlier, but that felt like days ago. She scrolled through her contacts. Exactly 7 names, all people she hadn't spoken to in months. They'd all said the same thing. I wish I could help, but things are tight right now. Everyone's things were always tight. She turned off the phone to save battery. Then she pulled out the plastic bag that held everything she owned, 2 pairs of underwear, 1 extra shirt, a toothbrush, the blanket her mother had crocheted. The blanket was thin, but it had been with her through everything. Ella wrapped it around her shoulders and tried to sleep. She'd almost drifted off when she heard it, a sound, faint, like crying. At first she thought she'd imagined it, but there it was, again, a weak, warbling cry. Ella opened her eyes. The street was empty, dark. The wealthy neighborhood of Lakeside Drive didn't believe in streetlights, too gauche, apparently. Just endless rows of towering homes hidden behind gates and hedges. The crying came again. Ella stood her joints protesting. She shouldn't investigate. She should stay put, stay safe. Getting involved in other people's problems when you were homeless was a good way to end up arrested or worse. But the sound was so sad, so lost. Kindness never leaves you. Damn it, Ella muttered. She followed the sound. It led her down the street past driveways with luxury cars and gates with intercoms. The houses here probably cost more than Ella would make in 10 lifetimes. She'd always known wealth existed, but seeing it like this when she had nothing made her stomach twist. The crying grew louder. Ella turned a corner and saw her, an old woman in a nightgown standing by an iron gate. Her white hair was wild around her face. She was barefoot in the snow, clutching a picture frame to her chest. "Oh my God!" Ella ran forward. Ma'am, are you okay?" The woman looked up, her eyes unfocused. "Have you seen him? My husband, he said he'd meet me here. Let's get you inside. You must be freezing." No, I have to wait. Alexander is coming. He promised." Ella looked at the gate. It was partially open, like someone had wandered out and forgotten to close it. Through the gap, she could see a massive house. Lights off. No one home. "Is that your house?" "That's where Alexander lives. My son. He's such a good boy. Works so hard." Ella's mind raced. The woman was clearly confused. Alzheimer's maybe, or dementia. She needed help immediately. Her lips were already turning blue. But if Ella tried to take her inside, what if someone thought she was breaking in, homeless girl, and a confused elderly woman? The cops would assume the worst. Her hands shook, and not just from the cold. "Ma'am, what's your name?" "Margaret. Margaret Monroe." "Okay, Margaret, I'm Ella. Listen, it's really cold out here. Why don't we sit down for a minute just until your son gets home?" Margaret nodded, her teeth chattering. Yes, that's good. Alexander will be so happy to see me." Ella guided her to a spot by the gate pillar where there was a heating vent from the house. Not much, but better than nothing. She helped Margaret sit down, then wrapped her own hoodie around the old woman's shoulders. The cold hit Ella immediately. Her thin shirt did nothing against the wind. Margaret looked at the jacket, then at Ella. "But won't you be cold?" "I'll be fine. You need it more." "That's very kind of you, dear." Ella sat beside her, then pulled out her mother's blanket. She draped it over both of them and put her arm around Margaret's shoulders. "There. We'll keep each other warm." Margaret leaned against her, still clutching the picture frame. Ella could see it now, a photo of a man in military uniform. Handsome, smiling. "Is that your husband?" "Yes, that's Robert. He was in the Air Force. We met at a dance in 1965. Margaret smiled, lost in memory. "He was the most handsome man I'd ever seen. Still is." Ella didn't correct her. "He looks like a good man." "The best. He always said he'd wait for me, and he has, all these years." Time passed slowly. Ella tried to stay awake, but the cold was seeping into her bones. Her body felt heavy. Her thoughts got foggy. Margaret talked sometimes rambling stories about Robert, about Alexander, about a house in Portland where she grew up. Ella listened when she could, murmured responses when Margaret seemed to need them. "You're a good girl," Margaret said at one point. "Alexander would like you." "I'm just trying to help." "No, you're being kind. That's different." Margaret's hand found Ella's, squeezed it weakly. "Don't let the world make you hard, dear. Stay kind." Ella thought about her mother saying the same thing. "Stay kind, baby, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." "I'll try," Ella whispered. She didn't remember falling asleep, or maybe she didn't fall asleep, maybe she just faded. But the next thing she knew, there were voices, shouting, bright lights. "Mom. Oh my God, Mom." Hands on her shoulders shaking her, Ella tried to open her eyes, but everything was so heavy. "Stay awake. You hear me? Stay awake." She wanted to explain, wanted to say she'd tried to help. She hadn't meant any harm, but the words wouldn't come. The last thing she remembered before everything went black was the feeling of her mother's bracelet against her wrist and a man's voice saying, "Just hold on, just hold on." Part 4. Coming Home. 2 days later, Ella stood in front of the Monroe estate with a paper bag containing her belongings and a discharge form from the hospital. Alexander had sent a car for her, an actual car service, not a taxi, and the driver had been polite and professional, as if picking up homeless people was a regular part of his day. The gates swung open automatically as they approached. Ella's stomach knotted. The main house was even more impressive in daylight. 3 stories of modern architecture, all glass and sharp angles. The driveway alone was bigger than the apartment she'd shared with her mother. "This way, miss," the driver said, leading her not to the main house, but to a smaller building behind it. "Mr. Monroe said you'd be staying in the guest house." The guest house was nicer than anywhere Ella had ever lived. 1 large room with a king-sized bed, a kitchenette, a bathroom with a walk-in shower. Everything was pristine. White walls, hardwood floors, furniture that looked like it came from a magazine. "Mr. Monroe will be over shortly," the driver said. "Is there anything you need?" "No, thank you." When he left, Ella stood in the middle of the room and tried not to panic. This was temporary, just until she got her paperwork sorted out and found a job. A few weeks, maybe a month. Then she'd be gone. She set her paper bag on the bed. Her belongings looked pathetic against the expensive duvet. 2 shirts, 3 pairs of underwear, a toothbrush, the crocheted blanket, her mother's bracelet. That was it. 20 years of life reduced to items that fit in a grocery bag. A knock at the door made her jump. "It's open," she called. Alexander entered, carrying several shopping bags. He looked different than he had at the hospital, more relaxed in jeans and a sweater instead of the expensive suit. But his eyes were still tired, like he hadn't slept much. "Hey," he said. "How are you feeling?" "Better, thanks." "Good. I picked up some things. Basics you might need." He set the bags on the counter. "Toiletries, some clothes I guessed on sizes, so if they don't fit, we can exchange them. Coffee, tea, snacks. There's more food in the main house, but I figured you'd want your own supplies." Ella stared at the bags. "You didn't have to do that." "I know, but I wanted to." Alexander rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I know this is weird, and I know you're probably feeling out of place, but I meant what I said at the hospital. You're not a charity case. You're here because I need help with my mom, and you were kind enough to say yes." "How is she?" "Better. She's asking about you, actually. Keeps saying she met the nicest girl and wants to thank her properly." Something warm flickered in Ella's chest. She was really sweet, even when she was confused. "That's Mom. She's always been like that, sees the best in people, even when she probably shouldn't." Alexander smiled sadly. "The Alzheimer's is getting worse. The doctors say we're looking at rapid progression, but she has good days still. Today's a good day. I'd like to see her, if that's okay." "She'd love that. But first let me show you around, give you the lay of the land." They walked through the grounds, past the swimming pool, covered for winter, the tennis court, the garden that would be beautiful in spring. Alexander pointed out where everything was: the main kitchen, the living room, his home office. "My daughter Lily is at school right now," he said. "She'll be home around 3. She's 10 and she's intense. Fair warning." "What happened to her mom?" Ella asked, then immediately regretted it. "Sorry, that's none of my business." "No, it's fine. Divorce. 3 years ago. Christine lives in New York now. Sees Lily during summer and holidays." His jaw tightened. "She didn't want to be tied down to Seattle or to us." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. We're better off." And Lily's adjusted. She's a strong kid. They reached the main house. Inside it was all open spaces and natural light. Expensive, but not showy. Everything had a purpose, a place. Margaret was in the living room doing a puzzle. She looked up when they entered, and her face broke into a huge smile. "There's my angel." Ella felt her cheeks heat. "Hi, Mrs. Monroe." "Call me Margaret, please, or Maggie. Mrs. Monroe makes me feel ancient." She stood up steadier than she'd been 2 nights ago and pulled Ella into a hug. "Thank you. Thank you for staying with me. Alexander told me what you did. I couldn't leave you out there. Most people would have." Margaret pulled back, holding Ella's shoulders. "You have a good heart. I can see it." Ella didn't know what to say to that. She wasn't used to people saying nice things about her anymore. "Mom, I was thinking Ella could join us for lunch," Alexander said. "If she's up for it." "Of course, wonderful idea. I'll make my famous grilled cheese." "Mom, let me." "I'm perfectly capable of making sandwiches, Alexander. Stop fussing. In the kitchen, Margaret moved with surprising competence, pulling out bread and cheese and butter. Ella watched fascinated. This was the same woman who'd been so lost and confused just 2 days ago. "The medication helps," Alexander said quietly, noticing her expression. "On her good days, she's almost like her old self. But the bad days..." He trailed off. Lunch was surprisingly normal. Margaret asked Ella questions about her favorite foods, her hobbies, what she liked to read. She didn't ask about being homeless or where Ella had come from, and Ella was grateful for that. "You know, you remind me of myself at your age," Margaret said. "Determined, practical. I grew up poor, not as poor as some, but we didn't have much. My father worked in a factory, my mother cleaned houses. I was the first person in my family to go to college." "Really? Really?" "Got a scholarship to Portland State. That's where I met Robert Alexander's father. He was studying engineering. We were both working 3 jobs just to pay rent and eat." Margaret smiled at the memory. "People think wealth is everything, but I was happier in that tiny apartment with Robert than I've been in some mansions." Alexander looked at his mother fondly. "You never told me that story. You never asked dear." After lunch, Alexander showed Ella to a spare bedroom that had been converted into an office. "You mentioned you lost your birth certificate and ID. We can work on getting those replaced. I have a lawyer who can help. He deals with this kind of thing all the time." "I can't afford a lawyer. Consider it part of your compensation. You're helping me with Mom. I'm helping you get your documents sorted. Fair trade, remember." Ella wanted to argue, but practical need won out. Without ID, she was stuck in limbo. "Okay, thank you. One more thing." Alexander pulled a phone out of his pocket. "It's a spare. Already activated. You need a way to stay in touch." Ella took it carefully, like it might break. "This is too much." "Ella, if you're going to be helping with Mom, I need to be able to reach you. This isn't charity, it's logistics." She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe this wasn't some wealthy man's guilt project that would evaporate as soon as he got bored. But the phone was solid in her hand. Real. "Okay," she said again. That night alone in the guest house, Ella lay in the enormous bed and stared at the ceiling. The sheets were softer than anything she'd ever felt. The room was warm. There was food in the fridge and clean clothes in the dresser. She should have felt relieved, safe. Instead, she felt terrified because she knew how this would go. She'd get comfortable, she'd start to feel like she belonged, and then something would happen, it always did, and she'd be back on the streets with nothing. Better to keep her guard up. Better to remember this was temporary. Ella touched her mother's bracelet in the dark. "Kindness never leaves you." "I hope you're right, Mom," she whispered. "I really hope you're right." Part 5. Learning to stay. The first week was the hardest. Ella couldn't shake the feeling that she was an imposter. She moved through the Monroe house like a ghost, trying to take up as little space as possible. When Alexander offered her food, she took the smallest portions. When Margaret wanted to chat, Ella kept her answers brief, afraid of overstaying her welcome. "You know you're allowed to actually live here, right?" Alexander said one morning, finding her eating toast in the corner of the kitchen. "You don't have to hide." "I'm not hiding." "You're eating standing up like you're about to bolt." Ella looked down at her plate. He was right. "Sorry. Old habit." "Don't apologize. Just relax. You're allowed to be comfortable." But comfort felt dangerous. Comfort meant letting her guard down. Everything changed when she met Lily. Alexander's daughter burst into the house after school one day, all wild blonde hair and boundless energy. She dumped her backpack on the floor and headed straight for the kitchen, then stopped short when she saw Ella sitting at the counter. "Who are you?" "This is Ella," Alexander said. "She's staying with us for a while." "Ella, this is my daughter Lily." Lily narrowed her eyes. "Why?" "Because Grandma had an incident and Ella helped her, so I invited her to stay." "Are you like a nurse or something?" "No," Ella said. "Just a friend." Lily grabbed an apple from the bowl and studied Ella like she was a puzzle to solve. "You don't look like Dad's other friends. They all wear suits and talk about boring stuff." "Lily," Alexander warned. "What? It's true. They're super boring." Lily took a bite of her apple. "Do you like video games?" Ella blinked. I used to." "Cool. I'm playing Mario Kart later. You should play with me. Dad's terrible at it." "I am not terrible," Alexander protested. "You can't even get past Rainbow Road, Dad. That's literally the most famous level. Rainbow Road is impossible." "It's not impossible. You just need better reflexes." Lily grinned at Ella. "So you in." Something about the girl's directness, the complete lack of pity or awkwardness, made Ella's defenses crack just a little. "Sure, I'm probably rusty though. That's okay. I'll go easy on you." She did not go easy on her. 2 hours later, Ella was laughing so hard her sides hurt as Lily destroyed her for the 5th race in a row. Margaret had joined them cheering from the couch, and even Alexander had stopped working to watch. "How are you this good?" Ella demanded. "Practice and natural talent." Lily's character crossed the finish line in first place. Again. "You're getting better, though. That turn on Maple Treeway was almost decent." "High praise," Alexander said dryly. "I'm a generous teacher." Lily tossed the controller aside. "Okay, I'm bored of winning. Want to see my room? I have a lizard." "You have a lizard?" "Yeah, his name is Sir Hopsalot. He's a bearded dragon. Come on." Ella found herself being dragged upstairs by a 10-year-old. Lily's room was exactly what you'd expect: posters of pop stars, a collection of soccer trophies, and, yes, a terrarium housing a very calm-looking bearded dragon. "He's cool," Ella said, watching Sir Hopsalot blink slowly. "Right, Dad didn't want me to get him, but I did a whole presentation about responsibility and stuff. Wore him down." "Smart." "I know." Lily flopped onto her bed. "So what's your deal? Dad said you were homeless." "That sucks." Ella appreciated the bluntness. No dancing around it, no pity. "Yeah, it does." "What happened?" "My mom died. I couldn't afford rent. Things kind of spiraled from there." "That's really sad." Lily was quiet for a moment. "My mom left us. Not the same as dying, I guess, but it still sucks." "I'm sorry." "It's okay. She wasn't very nice anyway. Always on her phone, always mad about stuff." "Dad's way better." Lily picked at her bedspread. "Grandma says sometimes people leave because they don't know how to stay." "I don't really get it, but whatever." Ella thought about all the people who'd left her life over the past year. Friends who'd stopped calling, landlords who'd evicted her, social workers who couldn't find space in the system. "Yeah," she said quietly. "Some people don't know how to stay." "But you stayed," Lily said, "with Grandma, when you could have just walked away." "I couldn't leave her there." "Exactly." Lily nodded like Ella had confirmed something important. "That's how you know someone's good. They stay, even when it's hard. Dad says that's the most important thing." Ella felt her throat tighten. "Your dad's pretty smart." "He's okay." Lily grinned. "For an old guy." When Ella went back downstairs, she found Alexander in the kitchen making dinner. The house smelled like garlic and herbs. "I hope Lily didn't interrogate you too much," he said. "She's great." "Really? She likes you." "That's rare. She's usually more skeptical of new people." "She's been through a lot." "We all have." Alexander stirred something on the stove. "You're staying for dinner, right? I made enough pasta to feed an army." Ella hesitated. Every instinct told her to retreat to the guest house, maintain boundaries. But Lily had called her good. Margaret had hugged her earlier and said she was glad Ella was here. And Alexander was looking at her with an expression that wasn't pity, it was just hope, like he wanted her to say yes. "Okay," Ella said. "Yeah, I'll stay." Over dinner, which was delicious, Margaret told stories about Alexander's childhood, how he'd been obsessed with taking apart electronics to see how they worked, how he'd nearly electrocuted himself trying to improve the family TV. "I was 8, Alexander protested, and I was curious." "You were a menace," Margaret said fondly. Lily laughed. "That's where I get it from." "God help us," Alexander muttered, but he was smiling. Ella watched them, this little broken family that had found a way to be whole again. Something ached in her chest. This wasn't hers. It couldn't be hers. But for tonight, she let herself pretend. After dinner, she helped with the dishes, despite Alexander's protests. Then she walked back to the guest house through the cold evening air. She'd been there a week, 7 days, and already it felt less alien, less temporary. That scared her more than anything. Part 6. Breaking and Building. 3 weeks in, the nightmares started. Ella would wake up gasping, convinced she was back under the viaduct, or in the hospital room where her mother had died, or wandering through snow looking for someplace warm, someplace safe, and never finding it. She learned to muffle her crying in the pillow so no one would hear. But Margaret heard. One night, there was a soft knock on the guest house door. Ella opened it to find Margaret in her bathrobe holding 2 cups of tea. "Couldn't sleep either," Margaret said simply. "Mind if I come in?" Ella stepped aside. They sat on the small couch sipping tea in comfortable silence. The nighttime Margaret was different, softer, more present. Like the confusion that plagued her during the day receded after dark. "You have nightmares," Margaret said finally. "I hear you sometimes." "I'm sorry. I try to be quiet." "Don't apologize. I have them too. Different reasons, I suppose, but the fear feels the same." Margaret set down her cup. "Want to talk about it?" Ella surprised herself by saying yes. She told Margaret about her mother's last days, the hospital smell, the sound of machines, the moment the doctor said there was nothing more they could do. She told her about the eviction notice that came 1 week after the funeral, about selling everything, furniture, clothes, her mother's jewelry, except the bracelet, and still not having enough. "I tried so hard," Ella whispered. "I worked 3 jobs. I asked everyone I knew for help, but it wasn't enough. It's never enough." "Oh, sweetheart." Margaret pulled her into a hug. "You did everything right. The system failed you. That's not your fault." "Then why does it feel like my fault?" "Because you're human. We always blame ourselves when things go wrong. But listen to me." Margaret pulled back, holding Ella's face in her hands. "Strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up. And you got back up." "You're still getting back up." "I don't feel strong." "The strongest people never do." Margaret smiled. "You know what I see when I look at you. I see my younger self. Scared, angry at the world, but still trying, still fighting." "How did you stop being angry?" "I didn't. I just learned to channel it into something better. Built a life, raised a good son, made a difference where I could." Margaret touched Ella's bracelet. "Your mother was right. Kindness doesn't leave us, but sometimes we have to fight to hold on to it. And that fight, that's what makes us strong." Ella cried then, really cried, and Margaret held her through it, this woman who barely knew her, but somehow understood exactly what she needed. The next day, Alexander's lawyer came by. His name was David Chen, and he was efficient. Within an hour, he'd made a dozen phone calls and had a clear plan for getting Ella's documents replaced. "Birth certificate will take 2 weeks," he said. "ID another 3. Meanwhile, I'm filing for temporary identification papers. Won't get you a driver's license, but it'll be enough for job applications and banking." "Thank you," Ella said. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing. Consider it done." "I can't just accept that." David smiled. "Alexander already paid my retainer, and between you and me, he's overpaying. So really, I should be thanking you for the easy work." After he left, Ella cornered Alexander in his office. "You can't keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Paying for everything. The lawyer, the clothes, the food. I need to contribute." Alexander leaned back in his chair. "You are contributing. Mom's been better since you got here. She smiles more. Lily actually wants to come home after school instead of hiding at friends' houses. And He paused. "I'm sleeping better knowing someone else is here, someone who actually cares." "But, Ella, let me ask you something. If the situations were reversed and you had the resources to help someone who'd saved your mother's life, wouldn't you do it? That's different." "How?" She couldn't answer that. "Look," Alexander said, "I know you're independent. I know you don't want handouts. But this isn't a handout. This is reciprocity. You gave me something invaluable. Let me give you something back. I don't know how to accept this." "Then learn, because you're worth it." Those words hit harder than Ella expected. Worth it. When was the last time someone had said that to her? "Okay," she whispered, "but I want a real job. Something I can actually do to earn this." "Done. Mom needs someone to help organize her medications, take her to appointments, keep her company. Think you can handle that?" "Yes." "Great. You're officially hired. We'll call it a companion position. Salary, health insurance, the works." Ella's head spun. "Health insurance? Can't have you getting sick on us. Besides, you should see a doctor. Get a checkup. When's the last time you had one?" "I don't remember." "That's what I thought. I'll set up an appointment." Over the next few weeks, Ella fell into a routine. She'd wake up early, have coffee with Alexander before he started work calls. She'd spend mornings with Margaret, doing puzzles, watching old movies, taking walks when the weather was decent. Afternoons were for errands and appointments. Evenings were dinner with the family. Then sometimes games with Lily or quiet reading time. It felt like a life, but Ella kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Alexander to change his mind, for Margaret to have a bad episode and blame Ella, for something to go wrong. It didn't. Instead, small good things kept happening. Her documents came through. She opened a bank account. The doctor declared her healthy, but prescribed vitamins to address malnutrition. Alexander insisted she use the home gym. Lily taught her how to play soccer. Margaret shared stories about her youth and asked about Ella's dreams. "What did you want to be?" Margaret asked one afternoon, before everything happened. Ella thought about it. "A teacher, maybe. I loved helping kids learn. Or maybe social work. I wanted to help people like me, people who got lost in the system." "You still can." "I don't have a degree." "Then get one. You're smart. You're young. The world doesn't end at 20. "I can't afford." "Ella." Margaret took her hand. "Stop telling yourself what you can't do. Start figuring out what you can." That night, Ella researched GED programs online. She'd graduated high school, but her transcripts were lost in the chaos of eviction. A GED would give her a fresh start, a pathway to college if she wanted it. She mentioned it to Alexander the next day. "Do it," he said immediately. "I'll pay for the prep course and the test." Alexander? Nope, not arguing. "This is an investment in our partnership. The better educated you are, the better care Mom gets. Win-win." Ella wanted to protest, but she was learning to accept help. "Okay. Thank you. You keep saying that. You don't have to." "I know, but I want to." The GED prep course was harder than Ella expected. She'd been a good student once, but 2 years of survival had dulled her focus. She struggled with the math, second-guessed herself on reading comprehension, stayed up late in the guest house studying until her eyes burned. One night, she fell asleep at the desk. Alexander found her there in the morning. "Ella, hey." He gently shook her shoulder. "You okay?" She jolted awake, paper sticking to her face. "What time is it?" 6 a.m. "How long have you been up?" "I don't know. I was studying, and I guess I just—" She rubbed her eyes. "The test is in 2 weeks. I'm not ready." "You're more ready than you think." "I keep failing the practice tests." "By how much?" 5 points, but 5 points is 5 points. Alexander pulled up a chair. "Can I tell you something? I failed the SAT the first time I took it. Got a 980. Nowhere near what I needed for Stanford." Ella blinked. "You went to Stanford." "Eventually. After I retook the SAT 3 times and spent a year at community college. My point is, everyone struggles. The difference between people who succeed and people who don't isn't talent. It's refusal to quit. What if I'm not smart enough? You saved my mother's life in a snowstorm with no training and no resources. You're smart enough." Something in his absolute confidence made Ella believe it, just a little. "Okay," she said. "I'll keep trying." "Good. And Ella, take breaks. You're allowed to rest." And she studied hard for the next 2 weeks. Margaret quizzed her on history. Lily helped with math, surprisingly good at algebra for a 10-year-old. Alexander proofread her practice essays. The day of the test, Ella's hands shook so badly she could barely hold a pencil. "You've got this," Alexander said, dropping her off at the testing center. "And if you don't, you'll take it again. No big deal." "It feels like a big deal." "I know, but it's not life or death. It's just one test. You're more than a test score." Ella wanted to believe that. She took a deep breath and walked inside. 4 hours later, she walked out, exhausted, uncertain, but done. Results would come in 3 weeks. 3 weeks of waiting. 3 weeks of second-guessing every answer. 3 weeks of trying not to think about it while thinking about nothing else. When the envelope finally arrived, Ella stood in the guest house and stared at it for 10 minutes. Then Margaret knocked on the door. "You going to open that or just glare at it? What if I failed?" "Then you try again." "But I have a feeling you didn't." Ella tore open the envelope, scanned the paper, read the number at the top. "Oh my God." "Well," Margaret prompted, "I passed. I got a 720 out of 800. Margaret whooped and pulled her into a hug. "I knew it. I knew you could do it. I can't believe." "Believe it. You did this. You." They ran to the main house. Alexander and Lily were in the kitchen. Ella held up the paper, unable to speak. "You passed?" Lily asked. Ella nodded. "You passed." Lily threw her arms around Ella's waist. "I told Dad you would. I told him." Alexander smiled, and Ella saw something like pride in his eyes. "Congratulations. You earned this. We're celebrating," Margaret declared. "Fancy dinner. My treat." "Mom, you don't have to." "Hush. This is important. Ella just got her life back." That night, they went to a nice restaurant downtown. Ella wore one of the dresses Alexander had bought her weeks ago. She'd never worn it too nice for every day, but tonight felt special. Over dessert, Margaret raised her glass. "To Ella, for being brave, for being kind, for reminding us all what really matters." They clinked glasses. Ella felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you," she managed, "for everything, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." That's what family does, Lily said simply. Family. The word hung in the air. Alexander met Ella's eyes across the table, and something passed between them. Permission. Recognition. Yeah, Ella said softly. That's what family does. Part 7. The foundation winter gave way to spring. The gardens bloomed. Ella had been living at the Monroe estate for 4 months, and it no longer felt temporary. She'd started taking online classes at community college, general education credits, baby steps toward a degree she still wasn't sure she could finish. But Margaret's words echoed in her mind. Stop telling yourself what you can't do. One morning in April, Alexander called a family meeting in the living room. Even Lily put down her phone, which meant it was serious. I've been thinking, Alexander said, pacing, about how Ella and Mom met, about how many people are in Ella's situation, and I want to do something about it. Like what? Margaret asked. A foundation, specifically focused on homeless youth, helping them get IDs, job, training, education, the things Ella needed but couldn't access. Ella's heart started pounding. You're serious? Completely. I've talked to my lawyers, my accountant. I want to start this properly. Make a real difference. He looked at Ella. And I want you involved, not just as a recipient of services, as someone helping shape what this looks like. You know what works and what doesn't. You've lived it. I don't know anything about running a foundation. Neither do I. We'll learn together. What do you say? Ella thought about all the people still sleeping under viaducts, still getting turned away from shelters, still losing everything because they didn't have the right piece of paper or know the right person. Yes, absolutely yes. They spent weeks planning. Alexander brought in consultants. Margaret helped with outreach. She knew people at the mayor's office, local churches, community centers. Lily designed a logo on her iPad, and Ella shared her story. It was harder than she expected, standing in a conference room full of professionals talking about being homeless, about her mother dying, about the fear and shame and desperation. But it mattered, because every time she spoke, someone understood better, saw the problem more clearly. We should call it the Margaret Monroe Foundation, Alexander suggested during one meeting, for homeless youth. Absolutely not, Margaret said. Call it the Kindness Foundation. That's what this is about. Mom, I insist. Kindness is what brought Ella to me. Kindness is what we're trying to spread. Make it mean something. They compromised the Margaret Monroe Kindness Foundation. Launch day was set for July 15th, 3 months to get everything in place. Ella worked harder than she'd ever worked, making calls, attending meetings, sharing her perspective on every program detail. One afternoon, she and Margaret went through boxes of old blankets and clothes to donate to the foundation. This one, Margaret said, holding up a crocheted throw. It looks just like your mother's. Ella touched it. Same pattern, same colors. She made dozens of these. Sold them at craft fairs to help with bills. She sounds like she was wonderful. She was. She kept me going. Even after she was gone, knowing what she'd want me to do. It helped. What would she say about all this? The foundation, everything you're doing. Ella thought about it. She'd probably say I was being too cautious, that I should dream bigger. Smart woman. You should listen to her. They sat in companionable silence, folding blankets. Then Margaret spoke again. Ella, I need to tell you something. The Alzheimer's is getting worse. I'm having more bad days, more confusion. The doctors say. She paused. They say I might not have much time left. A year, maybe 2, if I'm lucky. Ella's hand stilled. Margaret, it's okay. I'm not afraid. I've had a good life. A wonderful son. A beautiful granddaughter. And in the last few months, I've gotten to know you. That's a gift. You've given me so much. We've given each other something. That's how it works. Margaret took Ella's hand. I need you to promise me something. When I'm gone, when I can't remember who you are or who I am, I need you to stay with Alexander and Lily. They need you, more than they know. I'm not family. Yes, you are. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who stay, who show up, who choose you. Margaret squeezed her hand. Promise me. Ella's vision blurred. I promise. Launch day arrived hot and bright. They held the event at the foundation's new building, a renovated warehouse downtown. 200 people came, donors, city officials, other nonprofits, reporters, and youth. Dozens of homeless youth who'd heard about the foundation and came to see if it was real. Ella stood backstage, her stomach in knots. She was supposed to give a speech, share her story publicly. The thought made her want to vomit. You've got this, Alexander said, straightening her collar. Just speak from your heart. My heart's in my throat right now. Even better. Extra passion. He smiled. Seriously, Ella, you've practiced this 100 times. You know what you want to say. What if they judge me? Then they're not worth worrying about. The kids out there, they need to hear your story. They need to know someone made it out, that there's hope. Lily ran up and hugged Ella's waist. You're going to be amazing. And if anyone's mean, I'll fight them. Please don't fight anyone, Alexander said. I'll fight them with words. Devastating words. Despite her nerves, Ella laughed. Thanks, Lil. Margaret appeared stunning in a blue dress. She was having a good day, clear-eyed and present. Ready. As I'll ever be. They walked onto the stage together. The crowd quieted. Ella looked out at hundreds of faces. She found the homeless youth gathered at the back, some looking hopeful, some skeptical. She took a deep breath. 6 months ago, I was sleeping under a viaduct. I had $7 to my name, no ID, and no idea how I was going to survive the next week, let alone the next year. I was 20 years old, and I was invisible. The room was silent. People walked past me every day, hundreds of people, and they didn't see me, or they saw me and looked away, because I made them uncomfortable, because I represented something they didn't want to think about, that any of us can fall, that the safety net has holes, that sometimes bad things happen to good people, and kindness is the only thing that can save us. She told them about her mother, about losing everything, about Margaret in the snow. I could have kept walking that night. It would have been easier, safer, but I didn't, because my mother taught me that kindness never leaves you. Even when you have nothing, you still have that. And that's what this foundation is about. Ella gestured to the building around them. This place isn't charity. It's not a handout. It's a hand up, a second chance, a reminder that you matter, that you're not invisible, that someone sees you and believes you deserve better. She looked at Alexander and Margaret and Lily. I got lucky. I met people who saw me, who helped me, who gave me a chance. And now I want to pay that forward to every kid out there who's scared and alone and wondering if tomorrow will ever come. To everyone who's been told they don't matter. Her voice strengthened. You matter. You're seen. You're valued. And this foundation, it's here for you. Not to fix you because you're not broken, but to support you, to give you the tools you need to fix the systems that failed you. The applause was thunderous. People stood. Some were crying, including many of the youth in the back. After the speech, dozens of people came up to Ella, thanking her, sharing their own stories, asking how they could help. But the moment that mattered most was when a teenage girl approached, maybe 17, with matted hair and a backpack that looked like it held everything she owned. My name's Sophie, the girl said quietly. I've been on the streets for 8 months. I heard about this place and I thought maybe it was too good to be true. But you were serious. This is real. Ella took her hand. It's real. And you're not alone anymore. Sophie started crying. I'm so tired. I know you are. Ella pulled her into a hug. But you're safe now. We've got you. Over Sophie's shoulder, Ella saw Alexander watching with that same look of pride. Margaret was wiping her eyes. Lily gave a thumbs up. Family. This strange, beautiful, chosen family. The foundation became Ella's purpose. She worked there 5 days a week, helping intake new youth, coordinating services, sharing her story with anyone who'd listen. Sophie became one of their first success stories. She got her GED, found a job at a bookstore, moved into transitional housing, stayed in touch with Ella through every step. You saved my life, Sophie told her one day. No, you saved your own life. I just showed you the door. Well, thanks for showing me the door, and for not letting me quit when I wanted to. That's what family does. By fall, the foundation had helped 43 youth, gotten IDs for all of them, job training for 27, education support for 30, housing for 18. The numbers mattered, but it was the individual stories that Ella held on to. Each kid who walked through the door with hope in their eyes, each success, each second chance. One night, Alexander found her in the foundation office, long after everyone else had gone home. You know, there's this thing called work-life balance, he said. I've heard rumors. Ella didn't look up from the grant application she was reviewing. Ella, come on. It's 9 p.m. Go home. Rest. This grant is due tomorrow. If we get it, we can expand services to Tacoma, and the grant will still be there in the morning. Alexander gently took the papers from her hands. You can't save everyone. I can try. I know, but you also have to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you'll burn out, and then you can't help anyone. Ella slumped in her chair. I just keep thinking about all the people we're not reaching. All the kids who don't know we exist. We'll reach them, one at a time. But Ella, you've already done so much. Look around. He gestured at the office walls covered with photos of youth they'd helped. This exists because of you. It exists because of you. You funded it. Money's easy. Vision is hard. Heart is harder. You brought both. Alexander sat on the edge of her desk. Do you remember 6 months ago when you thought you'd never amount to anything? Don't remind me. I'm going to anyway, because look at you now. Running a foundation, changing lives, speaking at conferences. You did that. You. Ella felt her eyes sting. I couldn't have done it without you, without Margaret and Lily, without all of this. That's the point. None of us do it alone. We need each other. He stood up and offered his hand. Come on, let's go home. Margaret's making her famous pot roast, and Lily will be disappointed if you miss dinner again. Home. The word didn't scare Ella anymore. She took his hand. Okay, let's go home. Part 8. The Things We Hold On To. Margaret's decline was gradual, then sudden. For months, she'd have good days mixed with bad days. She'd forget names, sometimes repeat stories, get confused about time. But she was still Margaret, still kind, still present, still herself. Then one morning in November, she didn't know who Alexander was. He'd walked into her room to say good morning, and she'd looked at him with blank terror. Who are you? What are you doing in my house? It broke something in him. Ella found him in his office an hour later, head in his hands. She called me Robert, he said. She thought I was my father, and when I tried to explain, she got so scared, so confused. I made it worse. Ella sat beside him. It's not you. It's the disease. I know. Intellectually, I know. But God, Ella, she's my mom. And she looked at me like I was a stranger. What did the doctor say? That it's going to get worse, more frequent, until she doesn't recognize anyone anymore, until she's just gone, even though she's still here. They sat in silence. Ella took his hand. She's still in there, Ella said finally, even on the bad days, the core of who she is that doesn't go away. How do you know? Because my mom was the same way at the end. The cancer spread to her brain. She'd forget who I was where we were, but she'd still smile when I sang to her, still squeeze my hand. The love was still there, just buried. Alexander's eyes were red. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. You are, and you're not doing it alone. I'm here. Lily's here. We'll get through it together. They hired a full-time medical nurse for Margaret, adjusted the house to make it safer, locks on certain doors, labels on everything, a medical alert system. Ella cut back her foundation hours to be there more. Margaret had more bad days than good now, but on the good days, she was vibrant. She'd tell stories, crack jokes, insist on baking cookies, even though she'd forget halfway through what she was doing. One afternoon in December, Margaret was having a good day. She and Ella sat in the garden, despite the cold, wrapped in blankets, watching birds at the feeder. You're going to be okay, Margaret said suddenly. What? When I'm gone. You're going to be okay. You and Alexander and Lily, you'll take care of each other. Margaret, let me say this, please. Margaret took Ella's hand. I know I'm getting worse. I can feel it like fog rolling in. Soon the fog will be too thick, and I won't find my way out. But before that happens, I need you to know something. Ella's throat was tight. What? You're not a guest here. You're not an employee. You're not someone we're helping out of obligation. Margaret's eyes were clear-focused. You're my daughter. Not by blood, but by choice. And that's stronger than blood anyway. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it because I have to. I'm saying it because it's true. The day you stayed with me in the snow, you could have walked away. You could have saved yourself. But you stayed. You chose to stay. That's what family is, choosing to stay, even when it's hard. Ella couldn't hold back tears anymore. I love you. You know that, right? I know. And I love you. So much. You brought light back into this house, gave Alexander hope, gave Lily someone to look up to, gave me. Margaret smiled. You gave me joy in my last days. That's a gift I can never repay. You don't need to repay it. I know, but I want you to know it matters. You matter. Promise me you'll remember that, even after I forget. I promise. They sat together until the sun set, neither speaking, just holding hands. Christmas was quiet that year. Margaret had more bad days than good. She thought Lily was Alexander as a child, called Ella by names of people from her past, got agitated when she couldn't find Robert, But on Christmas morning, she woke up clear-eyed. "Merry Christmas," she said when Ella brought her breakfast. "You're here," Ella said, relief flooding through her. "I'm here. For now." Margaret smiled sadly. "I can feel it, you know. The fog. It's getting closer. But today I'm still me. So let's make it count." They opened presents in the living room. Lily got the soccer cleats she'd been begging for. Alexander got a new watch. Margaret got a photo album Ella had made pictures from the past year, moments captured, and Ella got a box from Margaret. Inside was a necklace, a simple silver chain with a pendant that matched Ella's bracelet. The same inscription, "Kindness never leaves you." "So you'll always have it," Margaret said, "even when I can't remind you anymore." Ella put it on with shaking hands. "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I was invisible. For treating me like I belonged. You do belong. Never doubt that." It was the last completely clear day Margaret had. By New Year's, she rarely recognized anyone. She lived in memories from 40 years ago. She'd call for Robert, get upset when he didn't come. The nurse had to give her sedatives to keep her calm. Ella spent hours with her anyway, reading aloud even when Margaret didn't respond, playing music from her youth, holding her hand. "Why do you do this?" the nurse asked one day. "She doesn't even know you're here." Maybe not consciously, but somewhere in there she knows she's not alone. That matters. Alexander found Ella there one evening, Margaret asleep in her chair. "You don't have to do this every day," he said gently. "Yes, I do." She did it for me, stayed up with me when I had nightmares, talked me through panic attacks, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Ella touched her necklace. "This is how I say thank you. She'd be so proud of you. She is proud of me. Somewhere in there she knows." Margaret passed away in February, quietly in her sleep. The doctors said it was peaceful. Her heart simply gave out. No pain, no fear, just sleep that became something more. The funeral was huge. Margaret had touched so many lives, friends, community leaders, people she'd helped over the years. But it was Ella who spoke at the service. "Margaret Monroe taught me what family really means," she said, standing at the podium. "Not blood ties or legal documents, but choice, showing up, staying even when it's hard. She did that for me when I was a stranger. She did it for everyone in this room. She saw people not for what they had, but for who they were, and she loved them anyway." Ella touched her necklace. "She gave me this, a reminder that kindness never leaves us. Even now, even after she's gone, her kindness remains, in the foundation that bears her name, in the lives she touched, in the way we treat each other. That's her legacy. Not money or achievements, though she had plenty of both, but kindness. Simple, powerful, transformative kindness." She looked at Alexander and Lily in the front row, both crying. And she was right. Kindness doesn't leave us, because every time we choose to stay, to help, to love, she's still here, still teaching us, still reminding us what matters. Thank you, Margaret, for staying with me. I promise to stay with others the way you stayed with me. After the service, dozens of people came up to Ella, thanking her, sharing their own Margaret stories. But it was Sophie who said what mattered most. "She would have been so proud of you," Sophie said. "I hope so. I know so. You're doing exactly what she wanted, passing it forward, being the person for others that she was for you." Ella hugged her. "Thank you." That night the house felt empty. Even though nothing had physically changed, Margaret's absence was enormous. Lily climbed into Ella's lap on the couch, something she hadn't done in months. "Is Grandma in heaven?" "I think so," Ella said. "Is she with Grandpa Robert now?" "Yeah, I bet she is." "Good. She missed him a lot." Lily was quiet. "Then I miss her." "Me too, sweetie. Me too." Alexander sat beside them. "We're going to be okay," he said, but he sounded like he was trying to convince himself. Ella put her free arm around him. "We are, because we have each other." That's what she wanted. I keep expecting her to walk in, to tell me I'm working too hard, or that Lily needs to clean her room. She's still here, just in a different way. "You really believe that?" Ella touched her necklace. "I have to." They sat together in the quiet house, this strange little family that loss and kindness had created, broken but healing, grieving but together. And somewhere Ella thought Margaret was smiling. Part 9, passing it forward. Spring came again. The garden bloomed just like it had a year ago, but everything felt different, heavier. Ella threw herself into the foundation work. It was easier than sitting with grief, easier than acknowledging the massive hole Margaret had left. They helped 87 youth that year, double from the previous year. The foundation expanded to 2 more cities. Ella spoke at conferences nationwide, sharing her story, raising awareness. But she felt hollow. "You're burning out," Alexander said one evening, finding her at the office again at 10 p.m. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You work 16-hour days. You never take time off. You're avoiding something." "I'm working. There's a difference." "Ella," Alexander sat down across from her. "I know you miss her. We all do. But running yourself into the ground isn't going to bring her back." "I know that." "Do you? Because it seems like you're trying to fill the hole by helping everyone else. And that's not sustainable." Ella slammed her hands on the desk. "What am I supposed to do? Sit around and cry? Feel sorry for myself? There are kids out there who need help. Real help. Not theoretical someday help. Now. And you're helping them. But you can't save everyone, Ella. You're one person. Then I'll work harder. You'll collapse. And then you can't help anyone." Alexander's voice gentled. "Margaret wouldn't want this. You know she wouldn't." Ella felt something crack inside her. She left. She left and I wasn't ready. I needed more time. Her voice broke. "I needed to thank her properly, to tell her she knew. Everything you needed to say, she already knew. But I should have. You did everything right. You stayed with her until the end. You kept your promise. You honored her in every way that matters." Alexander reached across the desk. "But now, you need to honor her by taking care of yourself, by living the life she wanted you to have." Ella wiped her eyes. "I don't know how to stop. If I stop, I'll fall apart. Then fall apart. We'll catch you. That's what family does." She did fall apart. That night, back at the house, Ella cried harder than she had since her mother died. Alexander held her. Lily brought her tea. They didn't try to fix it. They just stayed. And slowly, Ella started to heal. She cut back her hours at the foundation, started seeing a therapist, took Sundays off to rest, let other people carry some of the weight. One afternoon in June, Sophie came to visit. She looked different, healthier, confident. "I got into college," she announced. "What, Sophie, that's amazing. University of Washington, full scholarship. I start in September." Ella hugged her fiercely. "I'm so proud of you. I wouldn't be here without you. You know that, right? You did the work. But you showed me it was possible. You were the first person who saw me, really saw me in months. You told me I mattered. That changed everything." They talked for hours about Sophie's plans, her fears, her excitement. And slowly, Ella remembered why she did this work. Not to fill a hole, but to honor the people who'd believed in her. "Margaret would love you," Ella said. "I wish I could have met her. You would have been her favorite." She had a thing for stubborn, brilliant young women. Ella smiled. "Actually, you remind me of her. The way you don't give up. The way you see possibilities instead of obstacles. That's what you taught me." "No, I just reminded you what was already there." After Sophie left, Ella went to the garden. She sat on the bench where she and Margaret used to sit. The flowers were blooming roses, lavender dahlias. Margaret would have loved this. "I miss you," Ella said to the air, "every day. But I'm doing what you asked. I'm staying. I'm helping. I'm keeping the kindness alive." She touched her necklace. "Thank you for seeing me, for staying with me, for teaching me what family really means." The wind rustled through the trees. For a moment, Ella could have sworn she heard Margaret's voice. "You're doing perfectly, sweetheart. I'm so proud." Part 10. Years later, Ella stood at the podium in the university lecture hall, looking out at 200 eager faces. The students stared back, notebooks open, waiting. She was 30 years old now, the executive director of the Margaret Monroe Foundation, which had expanded to 12 cities and helped thousands of youth. She'd finished her bachelor's degree, was halfway through a master's in social work, and today she was giving a guest lecture on nonprofit management. "So that's the operational side," Ella said, wrapping up her presentation. "Now let's talk about the heart of the work, because you can have perfect systems and infinite funding, but if you forget why you're doing this, you've already failed." She clicked to the next slide, a photo of Margaret. "This is Margaret Monroe, the woman this foundation is named after. She had Alzheimer's. One night she wandered away from home in a snowstorm. I found her. I was homeless at the time, but I stayed with her until help came. That night changed both our lives." The students leaned forward, engaged. "Margaret taught me something critical. Kindness isn't about having resources. It's about having heart. I had nothing that night, literally nothing. But I had the choice to stay or walk away. And I chose to stay. Ella touched her necklace. She wore it every day. Every person you help in this field has that same power. The power to stay, to show up, to see someone when the world has made them invisible. That's not about budgets or infrastructure. It's about humanity. She told them about the foundation's work, about Sophie and the dozens of others they'd helped, about the mistakes they'd made and learned from, about the victories and the heartbreaks. Social work will break your heart, she said honestly. You'll want to save everyone. You'll blame yourself for the ones you can't reach. You'll burn out if you're not careful. But you'll also witness miracles. You'll see people rise from nothing. You'll be the reason someone doesn't give up. And that's worth everything. After the lecture, students swarmed her with questions. One lingered after the others left a young man, maybe 19, with uncertain eyes. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. I'm currently homeless. I'm taking classes here on financial aid, but I don't have anywhere to live. I've been sleeping in my car, and I'm wondering, is there any help for someone like me?" Ella's heart squeezed. She saw herself in him, that same desperate hope mixed with fear of rejection. "Yes," she said firmly, "there's help. The foundation has emergency housing vouchers. We can get you somewhere safe tonight. And then we'll work on the rest job, training, permanent housing, whatever you need." His eyes filled with tears. "Really? Really? You're not alone anymore." She handed him a card. "Go to this address. Ask for Maria. Tell her Ella sent you. She'll take care of everything." "Thank you. God, thank you. No one should have to choose between education and shelter. We're going to fix that." After he left, Ella sat in the empty lecture hall for a moment. 10 years ago, she'd been that kid. Desperate, scared, invisible. Now she was the one with the power to help. The weight of that responsibility was enormous, but Margaret had prepared her for it. You're never too poor if you still have kindness. That evening, Ella drove to the Monroe estate. She still lived in the guest house, though Alexander had offered her permanent residence in the main house 100 times. "I like my space," she always said, but really, she liked the reminder, liked remembering where she'd come from, liked the physical representation of how far she'd traveled. Lily was home from college for the weekend, studying engineering at MIT, brilliant and fierce. She attacked Ella with a hug the moment she walked in. "You're teaching at UW now. That's so cool. Guest lecturing. Not the same thing. Still counts. You're fancy now." "Please never call me fancy. Too late. Already texted Sophie that you're fancy." Sophie came over for dinner. She was in medical school now, planning to specialize in adolescent medicine. She and Lily had become close over the years, both young women who'd been shaped by the foundation's work. Alexander grilled steaks. They ate outside, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. The conversation flowed easily. Work stories, gossip debates about movies and politics. This was family, chosen and cherished. After dinner, Alexander found Ella in the garden. She was sitting on Margaret's bench, looking at the flowers. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, just thinking. About 10 years ago. About how much has changed." She smiled. "I was terrified back then. Of everything. Of trusting people, of hoping things could get better, of believing I deserved good things. And now I'm still terrified sometimes, but I'm not alone in it anymore." Alexander sat beside her. "You know we couldn't have built this without you. The foundation, everything, that's your vision." "It was Margaret's vision. She started it. You made it real." He paused. "I never thanked you properly." "For what?" "For saving my mother's life. For staying when you could have left. For becoming part of this family. He trailed off. "For everything." Ella took his hand. "You saved me right back. All of you did. I was drowning, and you threw me a rope. More than a rope, you pulled me to shore and taught me how to swim. That's what family does. Yeah, that's what family does." They sat in comfortable silence. Then Ella spoke again. "There was a student today, homeless, sleeping in his car while trying to go to college. I saw myself in him, that fear, that desperation. But this time I could help. I could be the person I needed 10 years ago." How did that feel? Like closing a circle, like honoring Margaret's memory in the way that matters most. Ella touched her necklace. "She told me kindness never leaves you." And she was right, because every time I help someone, I feel her there, teaching me, guiding me, reminding me why this matters. She'd be so proud of you. I hope so. I know so. Lily and Sophie came outside carrying a cake with lit candles. What's this? Ella asked. 10-year anniversary, Lily said. 10 years since you came to live here. We're celebrating. You guys. Nope. No arguing. We're celebrating. Sophie set the cake down. 10 years ago, you saved Grandma Margaret, and in doing so, you saved all of us. So blow out the candles and make a wish. Ella looked at the three faces surrounding her, her family, her home, her purpose. She closed her eyes and made a wish, not for herself, but for all the kids still out there in the cold, for all the people who needed someone to stay, for all the stories waiting to be transformed by kindness. She blew out the candles. Later, back in the guest house, Ella stood by the window and looked at the main house. Lights glowing warm against the darkness. Silhouettes of people she loved moving inside. 10 years ago, she'd been invisible, forgotten, written off. Now she was home. Her phone buzzed. A text from the student she'd helped that day. I'm at the shelter. They have a bed for me. Thank you. You saved my life. Ella typed back, you saved your own life. I just showed you the door. Then she added, and you're not alone anymore. We've got you. She set down the phone and touched her necklace one more time. Thank you, Margaret, she whispered, for teaching me what really matters, for showing me how to stay, for reminding me that kindness never leaves us. Outside, snow began to fall, the first snow of the season. Ella watched it drift down, coating the garden in white. She thought about another snow 10 years ago, when two strangers had held on to each other in the cold and refused to let go. That night had changed everything. That night had saved two lives, not just Margaret's, but Ella's too. And now, every day, Ella tried to pass that forward, to be the person who stayed, who showed up, who saw people when the world made them invisible, because Margaret had been right about everything. Kindness never leaves you. It just keeps growing, spreading, transforming lives in ways you can never fully measure. And that was everything. Ella turned off the light and climbed into bed surrounded by safety and warmth and hope. Tomorrow, she'd help more people. She'd share more stories. She'd honor Margaret's memory by living the life they'd built together. But tonight, she simply whispered into the darkness, I'm home, and I'm staying. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in white. And in that moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The circle was complete. The kindness lived on. And Ella James, once invisible, once forgotten, once lost, had finally found her way home.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.